Thanks for joining us on the NRT Now podcast, part of the largest Christian music site online, newreleasetoday.com. Sit back and relax as we chat with your favorite artists, introduce you to new artists, and more. Now here's your host, Jake.
So we are with the Next Big Thing part 9, I think, already. And this week we're here with Taylor Leonhardt. Taylor, I hope I didn't butcher your last name.
You actually said it perfectly. That's it. It's just Leonhardt.
See, I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for a while because I actually know that last name very, very well. Because my whole family are Leonhardts, spelled the exact same way, like everything Leonhardt. So I hope I didn't butcher it because that's the last name that I've known my whole life.
That's amazing. And I guess like at some point our families were on the boat together or something.
So I have to shout out to my mom on this one because I told her we were doing this and she's like, okay, we've got to do family history. I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're related, like in the cousin tree. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandpa moved over here to Nebraska in like the early 1900s from the Volga region of Russia, off the Volga River. And I don't know if your ancestry kind of relates to that or if there's something different in the middle, but...
Gosh, well, this is going to show my just ignorance because I don't know if I know, and I kind of want to talk to my dad about it because my dad's been digging into ancestry and mapping. He went over to Germany a couple of years ago and met a cousin of his, and he's been on that journey, but I don't feel like I've filled in all the gaps.
I don't know if you're like me or not. Like my mom has been super into that. We have some of the Leonhardt side that's been super, super into that. And I'm like, just give me the cliff notes, give me the summary. I'm good. But
totally,
what I do know, kind of from a history lesson in a Christian music podcast, is there's a group of Germans that went to live in Russia along the Volga River. And they were promised by Queen Catherine, I think it was at the time, that they wouldn't fight in any wars. They'd be able to be sitting there peaceful, like life would just chill. And so where our family came from, it's a little town in Russia called Grim. And then Russia got into a war, go figure, and Queen Catherine said, y'all, we need you to fight. So they either got out before it came, or after they fought, they got out of Dodge, and then some of them came to the U.S., and I'm sure some of them went back to Germany. I'm not sure where everybody went to, but my branch of the family settled in the western Nebraska side.
Okay, and like central Texas. So... that's where these Leonhardts are, the ones that I know. Yeah. Kind of like around San Antonio and that area. Yeah.
So somehow I'm sure that they were related somewhere way back in like the 1900s, something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure where they all dispersed to. Like I said, I'm the summary person. Give me the summary of where our side runs to.
Yeah. I think like this is making me definitely want to talk to my dad and some of my aunts and uncles and just see like what they know. I don't feel like I've caught that bug quite yet, but it's always just awesome. Whenever I meet someone with even a similar name to Leonhardt, I'm like, okay, it kind of piques my curiosity. Like, where did we come from? How did we get over here?
Yeah. So, when I first started seeing Taylor Leonhardt come out, like the exact same spelling, because even that's weird. The way this is spelled is
totally weird.
It's not your average, like what you would pronounce it, Leonhardt spelling.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, am I related to Taylor? Like, do we have like this secret arm that I haven't heard of yet? No, but I think we could say that we're related somehow, like just to tie it together.
For sure. Family. We're family.
So you're in North Carolina now, if I remember correctly.
Well, yes. I lived in North Carolina for about almost a decade, from kind of 2011 to the end of 2020. And then I actually just moved to Nashville. So still very tied to North Carolina. Still, that's where we're doing Mission House out of, Jess and I. But I'm living like most of the time now in Nashville, Tennessee. So that's been a little shift for me.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Mission House and just kind of your path to Mission House and just like this worship writer's career. I feel like that's corny to say career, but yeah, just talk about the journey to Mission House and where you're at here.
Yeah, I love that. Well, some of you may know this and some of you may have not heard the story, but Jess and I met through a mutual friend back in 2015. And at the time we were both pursuing like our kind of solo music careers and doing that in Raleigh, North Carolina, where there's not a lot of people doing that, kind of pursuing the artist thing, and especially not in this kind of indie Christian sort of space. So, and we had heard of each other in town, and it was kind of one of those like inevitable friendships, I felt like. But yeah, once we met, we had so much in common. We kind of felt like we were going after the same thing. So we became quick, just fast friends. And then we would collaborate a lot on just our solo music. So like Jess produced an EP for me. My first solo album was called River House, like full length thing. And she did that. And we did that so much that we would tour together. Kind of around the same time we met, we started a worship night, basically, just like in our town. A bunch of us were pretty involved in our respective churches, but feeling like still kind of hungry for community and just to gather with other like young adults and who were just really wanting to like just kind of get together and worship and sing and hang out with each other. And so we started this thing once a week on Monday nights, and we would make dinner. We'd always have dinner and we'd always sing together. And that thing kind of like, it started small. We thought it would always stay small. We thought, let's not really even tell that many people about it, but it was kind of a word of mouth spread. And that thing grew over a couple of years from 7 people to about like 150 people every week.
Wow.
Still eating dinner together, still worshiping together. And Jess and I would lead the music almost every week. And, you know, you're planning your worship sets and you're kind of like, well, we would play a lot of popular worship songs and stuff like that. And then we kind of just started feeling like, man, our community really needs to sing this song, or God would put something on our heart just to share or sing. Or sometimes while we were leading worship, we would get kind of spontaneous songs and ideas or choruses. And so we turned some of those into songs. And then I think really the Lord just put it on our heart to write more for the people that we were with. And so we did that. And we did that without any intention of really starting a band. We just said, hey, let's write songs for our friends. And then Jess is just a great visionary and she has all these ideas and then the ability to follow through with them. So she's like, hey, let's record these songs. We'll get everyone together at my house and make our own little just kind of EP of those songs. So that is what the first Mission House album is, just our little self-titled thing. We did that kind of ourselves. And then we partnered with our friends at Integrity. They kind of heard the songs and they said, hey, like, what are you doing with this? And we're like, well, we just wrote it with our friends. You know, we just wrote these songs for our friends. We just wanted them to have it. And our buddy Andrew at Integrity is like, I think that more people need to hear these. And so we were just so thrilled to partner with them. And we kind of looked at each other like, well, I guess we have to make a band. Like we have to like pick a name, and now I guess we're a band now. So it was kind of this accidental thing, but like looking back, I mean, all of the seeds were planted from early on, and it's just been a joy. We've been doing that a couple of years now. And then we followed that record up with another album called I Heard a Song I Can't Ignore, which came out this past summer. And it's been a blast to I can't think of another worship duo or band that's just 2 females and 2 friends. And we feel like we are unique, but then also just a small part of this really beautiful conversation that's happening. We're kind of just trying to keep it at that. Just like we want to write songs that our community would want to sing, needs to sing. And I think, you know, a lot of the worship genre didn't necessarily sound like us. So I love what we do because I feel like you can hear North Carolina in it. You can hear the influences of the music that we love so much.
Yeah, and totally. And that's actually where I was going to head with that.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised as I've come in conversations with the podcast here, or I run into a song or something like that something grabs me that wouldn't be up my normal alley. And
yeah.
I heard Behold and I Don't Have Much were 2 of the big ones that kind of came out to me as like, who is this Taylor gal? Is she related to me journey here? And
yeah,
kind of the singer songwriter, kind of that North Carolina vibe. Like, that's not normally up my alley. It's not that I don't like it. It's just not kind of my go-to. And like, I was just kind of struck by it. It always amazes me how that kind of stuff grabs me. And just the simpleness of some of your songs. The melodies are not, not necessarily simple, but the message of it is sometimes just so simple, but like, I can behold, but just the way it's delivered just grabs you and just kind of speaks that truth. I mean, I don't have much. Let's talk a little bit about that one in particular, because just a few weeks ago, you released a new version of it with, a guy that's, I don't know, maybe not too big in the, no, Josh Baldwin, who is like huge in the worship scene right now.
Totally. Well, we love Josh Baldwin. Man, it has been so exciting the last couple of weeks, just watching that song kind of spread even more. We actually didn't meet Josh until we sang the song together. We kind of were friends almost on a digital space, and we had lots of mutual friends, because I don't know, some of you guys may know this, but Josh is from North Carolina and has like Charlotte area roots. And so we had like a bunch of buddies in common in Charlotte.
If they listened to the podcast, they would have known, because he was on a while ago, but.
That's right. Well, go back and listen to the episode with Josh Baldwin. I know I will, because yeah, man, I have not met a guy like Josh. Just so, as you know, because you guys hung out, like just so easy to be around, so joyful, so good at what he does. Like, what a voice, and what a, just like a presence, really. And so we found out that Josh was leading our song out at Bethel in Reading, which was like really awesome for us, because we're huge fans of him. I'm like, I can't believe he even knows who we are. And he's like leading the song, I Don't Have Much. And he brought such a different energy to his version of I Don't Have Much. And I quickly just loved that. And Jess and I kind of were dreaming about like, man, like it's so cool to hear that this little song that's, when I wrote it years ago, like it was this kind of quiet little singer-songwriter, like contemplative thing. And then Josh is just kind of going for it. And so it really like made me hear the song in a different way. So when Jess and I were kind of, just dreaming up what to do next, she's like, what if we did a version of I Don't Have Much with Josh? And we just got so pumped about that idea. And when we reached out to him, he's like, I love this song. It sounds great. And so it's kind of been this awesome thing where it just makes so much sense for us to be friends with Josh. And the song has given us almost a great excuse to kind of do that. And so, we're just really excited that he wanted to jump in on that. And I think it just sounds awesome. It's like my new favorite version.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's just such a great version. I love the original version. Just once again, to just kind of get lost in that truth of like, I don't have much, but everything that I have, I give to you. Just one of the truths that I think we have a hard time grasping a lot in a lot of our faith is like, we have to have a lot. We have to have everything. We got to do big things. What's God's plan for my life? It's got to be big. We've got to have this huge thing. And sometimes it's just not much. I mean, think of the door greeters at church, or, someone who makes sure now that the sanctuaries are COVID free, or, sprayed down or whatever. I mean, just a lot of these little things, like you don't have to have a ton, and just to sit and sing that and to just sit on that is just incredible.
Yeah. Well, as a recovering perfectionist, this song, was one of those things that I felt like this is just what I need to sing. I need to kind of get in touch with like, it's okay to show my weakness. It's okay to show my vulnerability. In fact, like, I feel like the Bible is full of stories of God honoring humility and kind of honoring, like, not putting ourselves down. I think what I'd never want of the song is for people to kind of feel like, oh, I'm nothing, but just to go, it's good to see ourselves rightly. It's good to kind of say like, you know what, when I'm feeling inadequate, when I'm feeling these things, like it's good for me to bring that to the Lord and actually find out that I'm loved, I'm valued. Like the song's really a celebration of just like, how could I respond to this crazy fact that God chose me, loves me, is with me, like his presence is continually with me. It's kind of nuts if you think about it. And so just to go like, what an answer for those moments of just like shame and whatever that thing is that we just feel like we need to be on the hamster wheel. If we're not doing awesome things, we're not doing anything. And I think God's just like, he is there in the quiet ordinary moments of our lives. And just like, he's like, what do you have today? There's a story where Jesus, like right before he feeds the 5,000 and he's with his disciples. And I just always love the question he asks them, because, they're coming up and they're like, Jesus, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. There's all these people. And look, we just have this bread. We just have this 2 fish. That he says, what do you have? And I think that that's the question that I hear from the Lord, is like, when I tend to just get in these weird frames of mind where I'm like, I don't have enough, God, and I don't have enough for this. And I hear God saying, what do you have? And then it becomes gratitude. And I feel like this song is that. It's gratitude about, I have a heart that beats for you. I have a life I'll give to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so it's just one of those, I heard it the first time and it just immediately grabbed me. And that was months ago. And then now the one with Josh Baldwin, it's going to be on the playlist for a while now. And yeah.
Awesome.
Just what a truth to just sit and hang on.
That's our hope, is just that it helps people. In everything you write, I think we just want to help people do that, kind of show up as they are and just find that God is right there with them.
You alluded to something a little bit earlier about just a couple of gals in a worship space and all that. Part of the reason why we're here is the Faithful Project.
Totally.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's a major mashup. It's a book. It's a live event. It's like all the things about celebrating women in the Bible.
So many things.
Stories.
It's like a Swiss Army knife, of just like, what can it do?
I think it can do everything.
I think so too.
Does it have the toothpick though? Or have we lost the toothpick?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that. It's so true. I think we've still got it now, like it's hanging on in its little pocket there. But yeah, the Faithful Project, it's been an incredible thing to be a part of. I mean, when we were invited, so it was over a year ago, this was February 2020. And we got invited to this gathering. No, January 2020, we get invited to this gathering of like friends and honestly some of our heroes, like our songwriting heroes and legends are in this room. And Jess and I walk in and we're a little bit, to be honest, kind of like, how did we get in here? But it has been such a beautiful thing to be a part of. And it honestly has just felt like, from that gathering and everything in between, from when we recorded the vocals to when we got back together with all the women, to when we were back in their room to kind of film this big live stream thing. Yeah. I'm just like, this is such a deep well of just friendship, of encouragement, of women from like even the age range in our sort of group. Like, there's amazing women who've been kind of doing this for decades now. And then there's some of us who are kind of new to the scene. But when we all come in that room together and tell our stories and sing these stories of like God's faithfulness in women's lives, it's like, I think for all of us, there's just this joy in the room that's kind of, I haven't felt a joy like that since at least before 2020 and everything. So it's just been a gift to me. And I think it's a joy that will translate as people are listening at home and stuff like that. I think they'll feel that same spirit in the room that has been here.
Yep. And so you have, I'm looking at the track listing here, and there's 2 of them that kind of feature you mainly in here. We Do Not Labor in Vain, and we have Holy Place. And what's crazy is some of the names you're talking about, some of the names that are in on this, like Ginny Owens. I remember listening to her when I was, a little bit younger. Amy Grant, like, talk about some of the icons that are just all pulling in, just a whole project just celebrating the women of the Bible and just really highlighting the stories of women in the Bible. Talk a little bit about some of the collaborations and just getting to dig in with a bunch of women to just bring out just such a major project like this, and just the stories and just the inspiration that's come out.
So we were given these prompts and stories of women in the Bible, and then kind of just mixed up and put in these songwriting groups. And the groups were comprised of songwriters and also authors, which I had never done that before. That was a new thing to me. So now on Holy Place, which I wrote with Amy Grant and Ginny Owens, we were all songwriters in that group. That was just an amazing experience to kind of walk in there and go, okay, well, I've been fans of both of you and, looked up to both of you since I was probably 12 years old. And now here I am writing the song with you, and just to see that song kind of take shape. Like that one we wrote about the story of thinking about Mary and Martha, and just like what happens when God's presence is here. Like when we can actually see that with our eyes, like it transforms us, it transforms the spaces we're in. Then I also got to write on a song called We Do Not Labor in Vain with Janice Gaines. And we wrote that song with an author, Trillia Newbell. And so that was kind of cool because Trillia is bringing all her Bible knowledge and just awesomeness into the room. Janice is like an incredible vocalist and gospel singer. And Janice, so this fun story about We Do Not Labor in Vain, which is one of my favorite songs, just like that I got to even be a part of. Janice had just had a little baby boy. And so in the writer's room, Janice has this little baby in her arms, and we're just like kind of just melting over how cute he is. And, you know, then we're talking about just the song that we're going to write, and we're kind of digging into some scripture together. And it's all just about this, like, just this waiting, you know, and who can't relate to the long wait. And Janice had just had this baby. And so we naturally just kind of went there, and we talked about the scripture of like, all of creation groans like the pangs of childbirth for kind of what is to come. And so we're looking at this little boy, we're looking at like the beautiful fruit of all of her waiting and all of her labor. So we're like, we want to sing the song for the church. We want to just like use this imagery around mothering and kind of talk about like what it is to wait with hope and expectation for the new creation, for God to come and make all things right. So it's just like this really beautiful moment where we have this picture right in front of us of this like beautiful truth that we're trying to sing about. So it was an unforgettable experience to be a part of. And then, yeah, this live stream, like gathering after a year all together again, and just like hearing everyone's voices and seeing these songs like take shape. I mean, it's really cool just to have had this little front row seat to all of it. Has been a dream for me.
I'll probably say this. I think we have a few episodes coming with the Faithful Project here. But one of the things that always just amazes me about the Bible is just the diversity of the characters in it. I mean, you have all the way from kings to nobodies. You have women, you have Samaritans. I mean, it's just all over the place. It's not just, you know, a single storyline. And I love that we get to celebrate some of the diversity, you know, and as someone who grew up with a single mom, kind of split parent household, you know, I just get to really see the strength of what my mom did to make sure I wasn't more screwed up than I am. I mean, that's, but, you know, she just really worked hard. So just to see the celebration of just some of the strength of the women characters, and to just not gloss over some of the diversity, and just, I think we have kind of a global conversation right now about diversity and just, you know, how important it all is. So can you talk a little bit about that and just being a part of that whole project, just really celebrating the women of the Bible and just bringing these stories out?
Totally. Well, you know, I think that's beautiful about your mom. And I think like even what you're saying, I was just thinking, man, I kind of like to think of it like we're all wounded. You know, we've been wounded by just the brokenness of the world, and sometimes the brokenness of our own family systems, and hurt and trauma and all of that. And so we're walking around wounded, but we have this opportunity, you know, when we meet God, when we live life with Jesus, we have this opportunity to be healed, you know, and then to almost like to make new, just like God makes new. And so I think it's just really cool. That's what I see in the stories of these women. And I mean, the stories of the women in the Bible that we kind of studied and just savored together. And also in the women in that room, you know, like these are women who are not strangers to pain and suffering and brokenness and woundedness. And it was really meaningful as a woman in the church, as a worship leader who has experienced the range of kind of things that women experience in those settings, to have someone say, to have compassion and integrity say, hey, we want to make this project highlighting women's voices and women's stories. And just to get to do that's really cool. You know, there's plenty of, I think, worship movements and expressions where you kind of have like a token female singing, but to have this thing that's kind of like run and powered and really like illuminating the stories of women in only the way that I guess really we can tell has just been, I think it's been transformative for all of us, honestly. Yeah, I think there's such diversity in the stories like that we tell, and then seeing the diversity in the room today and kind of these women who are singing and writing these songs and authoring the book and just like speaking into this project. And it makes me realize like, man, on my own, you know, I can only experience so much of God. Like I have my way of seeing and my way of understanding. And I feel like my understanding of who God is and what the gospel is just kind of exploding just from getting to like be around all these women and hearing their experiences and their stories and going like, we haven't had the same joys or the same sorrows. And so like when we come in the room and share those, it's just richer. And I hope it will encourage like women at home and men too, just to like gather. You know, we've been like also in a year where we're not gathering, you know, and we've been kind of like sequestered and quarantined. And so what a gift to just like, I think we've all been reminded that we need each other. This faith thing is not supposed to be this like solo, just you and God. That's it. It's like, we need community. We need friendship. We need relationship with people who are different than us, who can kind of say, this is how I see things. Then our vision gets bigger and wider and deeper.
Well, I am so excited for this to release and be out there and just to see what all this does. Like I said, I've had a chance to listen to the whole album. The album is great. Just like I said, so many good stories about this. So, man, excited to see this live stream as well. And see all you guys like together doing this.
Oh yeah, you guys tune in. It's May 1st, and there's some really cool opportunities too. There's like a VIP experience and all this kind of stuff if people want to like really dig in and hear some of the stories behind everything. So it's gonna be such a blast.
All right. Well, we just want to thank you for spending some time with us here, Taylor.
Thanks, Jake. It's been awesome. And man, I might reach out to you about this whole Leonhardt family connection. Like my dad will want to hear about the Nebraska Leonhardt. So very cool.
We're going to have to do that now that we're family.
I know, for sure. Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Thanks for hanging out with us for this episode of the NRT Now podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And special thanks to Neon Feather for providing our theme music. Make sure to check out newreleasetoday.com and our socials for more great content. See you next episode.